I work in Western Sydney, and I work in Parramatta, and it's a place to be, I have to say. But also too, I'm a boy from Granville. My background is fibro all the way. I grew up in Granville in the 1960s, and it was extraordinary for me. My dad was a truck driver who finished school in primary school. My mum worked in a shop, and she left school when she was 14. They had no education to speak of. And our house, a fibro house, it had no pictures. It had no music. It had few books. And it sounds a bit sad, but it wasn't. It was extraordinary because we had a great public library, a good school, and my parents really were motivated about us getting an education. So we did, and I learned from them a really strong work ethic, and we worked really hard. And the reason why I tell that story is because, firstly, I was the first in my family to go to university, and also too, I was the first male in my family to keep his teeth. That is true. Australians of a certain age will understand that it's true. But that background was extraordinary because it's what I knew. But what I took from it was that, and what's motivated my work ever since, is that I'm absolutely committed to access and equity and empowerment, because in my work, whether I've worked in the circus, which I have, or in the theatre, which I have, or in museums and galleries, it's always been about one thing, and that is to make sure that kids like me who didn't have very much, they get a really good crack at life. And that's why I work at Information and Cultural Exchange and Parramatta, or is sometimes known as I.C.E. And I.C.E is about positive change. It's not a drug. There's no misery with us, because we're about joy, and we're about hope, and we're about building. And as you can see on the slide, there are about three things. We're about community, we're about creativity, and we're about connection. And for us, art and creativity and technology are both crucible and they're catalyst for empowering people. We make music, we make videos, we make TV on the screen, Debbie and Leonie. We make films, we make performances, we write books. And what our organisation does is that we train, we educate, and we find pathways to employment. I.C.E has been around for 34 years, and for 34 years we've changed people's lives. And 34 years in the Australian arts industry is a pretty long time, I have to say. I've been on my fourth career now, I must say, but I've seen things come and go. But Information and Cultural Exchange is about rejuvenation, it's about regeneration, it's about change. And so we reinvent ourselves. And the people that we work with are very specific. We work in Western Sydney, and we work with some of the most vulnerable, the most disadvantaged, the most isolated, and the most ignored and demonised people in our communities. We work with Aboriginal people, we work with young people at risk, we work with migrants and refugees, we work with the unemployed, and also, importantly, we work with those with disability. Case in point, there are two chairs here. They're empty chairs. They're silent chairs. And they're there for a point, because they represent the people that we work in our disability program. For 3 years, we've been working with people on the autism spectrum on a program which is about making music. It's about exploring music. It's about creating new music, recording new music. It's totally experimental. It's totally innovative. There is nothing in the world that just does quite like what we do, because in our program it's about experimentation, but also the program is placing people with disability, with autism, in the role of cultural producers. They make. It's not therapy in a classic sense. They make music, and they make their music, and they also make their videos that go with their music. Their work is about exploring traditional music forms, guitar, piano, song, but also working with technology, with iPads, with the net. Their work is about the future. And as I said, some of these people, our participants, are shunned, they're invisible, and also too, I'd love for them to be here tonight. I really, really would. But for them, the very idea of coming to a thing like this is an impossibility. They just couldn't do it. So, we have empty chairs. This is for them. And now 3 stories. This is Chris. Okay, Chris is 22 from Parramatta. Chris has been working with us for 4 years. And Chris has high needs autism. He's non-verbal, doesn't speak, nor does he move properly. His world is closed, it's isolated, but for 4 years he's been coming to us on a Tuesday in a music program where he comes in silent. But through that program, he sings. Seriously, he sings. It's extraordinary. And he moves. And he moves us both emotionally, but also too, he moves us artistically. He's extraordinary. And he makes music. Next one, please. Sorry, I'm so nervous. This is Jerry. Jerry came to us 4 years ago as a participant in the program. Jerry's on the spectrum. Like 1 in 68 young Australians, he has a diagnosis on the spectrum. That's an extraordinary figure. Jerry came to us as a participant in a program. He makes great music. And Jerry has moved from being a participant to being a leader, to being a facilitator. So he teaches in our music program. He's in bands, he gets gigs, he also makes music for film, for short films, and he has career pathways through our program. So there's Jerry. Okay, the next one, please. This is Anthony. Anthony is Mr. Rock and Roll. I'm going to go fast, I'm going to go fast. So Anthony, he sings, he plays guitar, he plays drums, and his dream is to conquer the world with his music. So, with that said, what we propose is in fact to establish the Razzle Dazzle Orchestra. Okay, and it's about building a band. It's about building an orchestra. So, participants that we've been working with for 4 years, we want to build a band. To have a hothouse of 20 weeks of music making, of music creativity, for it to be a melting pot of ideas and sounds. 40 participants, 5 tracks, 5 videos to be launched at the Art Gallery of New South Wales. We've stitched up that deal. Okay, they're a great partner. They're so excited about this project, but also too, it's a project that will go live, be on screens, on radio, and on the web. And through your generosity, if you support us, you can make this project sing. You can make these people without voice sing. With $15,000, we'll have jobs for Jerry and facilitators, but also to 40 young people like Chris, like Anthony, and we get $30,000, we get that plus amazing equipment for them to make their music, to make their sounds, to make their videos. Okay, the impacts: pride, confidence, communication, social skills, networks, pathways, but ultimately our ambition, the impact that we want, is for Anthony to conquer the world. Thank you very much.